He got on the WWE's radar in similar fashion to other collegiate wrestling greats who made the leap successfully into the entertainment world of pro wrestling. He scored 3 straight undefeated seasons with national championships to his name in the NCAA with the University of Minnesota, the same wrestling team that produced Brock Lesnar. He won an Olympic gold medal for the United States, just like Kurt Angle did before his Hall of Fame career in WWE. Gable Steveson was the most anticipated pro athlete to join WWE in years, but his success in WWE simply was not meant to be. So what exactly happened? This is Sportskeeda Wrestling. I'm Kevin Kellum. Let us know what you think of pro athletes making their leap into pro wrestling in the comments below. Gable Steveson had all the things to attract the attention of WWE scouts when he was becoming one of the most talked about collegiate athletes in the lead up to the Tokyo Olympics. Along with his brother Bobby Steveson, who is still wrestling with WWE currently, he grew up a fan of pro wrestling, but took quickly to the legitimate sport of freestyle wrestling. At a very young age, he was pinned as a future great in the mat game and would go to deliver on that potential. The man was a freaking Olympic gold medalist in freestyle at the 2020 Olympics that took place in August of 2021. This followed a major career in the collegiate ranks with the University of Minnesota. When he reached the pinnacle of amateur wrestling, he was left with 2 major career choices that others have faced in the sport: a major possible leap into pro wrestling with the WWE and a potential contract being offered, or entering the world of MMA. Both were tantalizing. Being a fan of WWE from his childhood, he took Vince McMahon and Company's offer and signed one of the first lucrative next-in-line deals for college athletes following his Olympic gold medal win. It appeared that WWE's vision for Gable Steveson was supposedly to make him like the next Kurt Angle, or at least that was the perception. The path had already been set. The expectations were built in. We've seen the Kurt Angle comparisons time and time again. WWE has been no stranger at converting amateur athletes into primetime ready pro wrestling stars since Angle's emergence. Dolph Ziggler, who was a standout collegiate wrestler with Kent State, he became a show stealer for them for nearly 20 years. Bianca Belair, who has become a WrestleMania main eventer and world champion, came to WWE NXT after years in track and field competitions. Still, Kurt Angle is the greatest example of a legitimate athlete making the leap into the showbiz of WWE. For our younger viewers out there who didn't get the privilege of witnessing Kurt Angle in his prime, let's lay it out for you. Angle had one of, if not one of the greatest debut years in professional wrestling history. He picked up the business faster than anybody had before, and in just 1 year became the WWE champion and was a bona fide main eventer in the very competitive and successful times of the Attitude Era. Just think of this: main eventers like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker, and Triple H, Kane, they were all in there with Angle, and he was hanging in there with them. Kurt Angle managed to become that WWE champion with that roster. The reason why he was able to do it is because he was an all-around superstar and improved with each passing week. Not only was he a wrestling machine, a legitimate badass who could beat you in a real fight if he wanted to, he had the character work down to a T. Angle was rightfully inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame in 2017, so there's obviously a lot of pressure when it comes to being labeled the next Kurt Angle. And that's why those expectations, which maybe in retrospect seem unreasonable, were put on Gable Steveson when he signed with WWE. The fans were saying it, the industry was saying it itself. Unfortunately for Steveson, he happened to be entering WWE when social media was such a present part of our lives. Without getting into too many details, there were serious SA allegations made against Gable Steveson. It should be mentioned right off the bat that the case would later be dismissed due to an inadequate amount of evidence. As for his WWE career, he was quickly drafted to Monday Night Raw in 2021. Imagine that, just a few months after winning an Olympic gold medal on worldwide TV, he was officially a superstar on WWE's flagship show. But still, none of his pro wrestling performances had been televised by this time. The perception amongst fans was that he was not the next in line college blue chipper, but his hot topic name was simply skipping the line and being used to get some attention. It was not an actual call-up to weekly WWE main roster TV. It built up more desire to see what he could do, but we weren't actually seeing him do it. Months later, while still training for a pro wrestling debut, Steveson would be presented with the biggest possible stage he could have to give the audience a sample of what he could do in pro wrestling. He would end up appearing at WrestleMania 38 in Texas, where he was given his public acknowledgement for his Olympic achievements for the United States, and on the second night of Mania, he would tangle physically with a veteran of both sports entertainment and mat wrestling, an Olympic-level performer in his own right, Chad Gable. Chad Gable tried to shush the other Gable, but ended up receiving a hip-popping suplex. It was quite the cameo, a sample, if you will, of a future possible WWE superstar in the making who had a lot of built-in hype. Steveson, still a competitor in the collegiate ranks, would return to the NCAA Division I National Championships, capturing the title again before hanging up his amateur wrestling boots to give all of his focus and dedication to WWE. While still making the pivot to pro wrestling, some unfortunate news would come in the form of a diagnosis with a rare congenital heart defect known as Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. This delay to his body-slamming aspirations was reported in October of 2022 by ESPN. Steveson revealed to them that he was aware of the diagnosis prior to winning gold in Tokyo, but WWE medical staff advised him to undergo further exams from the top cardiologists. This was followed by treatment, which would delay his training even further. The same piece showed even more detail on Steveson's excitement to break big in WWE, saying, "We're just excited to get this journey started. It's been a long road to get to this point. I feel that I'm capable of being in that top spot. I feel that I am capable of handling that position in the right way." After never really appearing on Raw, Gable Steveson made the move quietly over at NXT, and it was the right thing for him to develop with other young hopefuls. But after over a year and a half of training, he was far from ready for the big time within NXT itself. It was here that Steveson would compete on untelevised NXT live events, before finally being tested by a true WWE main roster veteran in the villainous Baron Corbin. They would clash at the upcoming Great American Bash premium live event. All of the hype, all of the anticipation was built up for this big match to see him break out in a huge way with a real test in the ring with someone you knew could get the best match out of him. The match was not as bad as people labeled it, but certainly the fans in Texas turned on Gable Steveson right away, and they went with the heel Baron Corbin. Unfairly, these Texas fans were chanting, "You're not Angle," and it ended in a no contest, and fans online weren't too kind to it either in their ratings and reviews. It even got the dreaded bullshit chant at the end. Oh boy. Following this, Steveson would be featured on NXT live events, but not on NXT weekly television. He then would perform on untelevised dark matches at WWE NXT SmackDown shows against the likes of Cameron Grimes and Cedric Alexander. His final match for WWE would take place on February 24th at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina against Cedric Alexander. And that was the last you would see of Gable Steveson, at least for now, in the WWE. And then in May of 2024, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Steveson was a part of a recent wave of WWE cuts to the NXT division. That's right, all that hype, and this is how it ended. The timing could not have been worse. With the Paris Olympics not far away, Steveson, if he wanted to pursue another run at Olympic gold in the freestyle wrestling events, would have to be in the World Championship Freestyle Wrestling Tournament and perform there well to represent the United States in Paris at the Olympics. Well, he pulled out of that tournament and then shortly after was released by WWE. Steveson, though, still has a lot of opportunities in the combat sports world. The allure of MMA is certainly still there. He's a big name with a legitimate sports background who could really prove to be a heavyweight handle in the UFC if he could train for that as well. Steveson is not a bad pro wrestler. He has legitimate skills, and don't let one single live crowd reaction in his single televised wrestling match be the defining factor of who he is within the wide spectrum of what WWE is. He showed calculated psychology and athletic energy in that single performance. He truly has a lot of skills and could do something with them. It's simply a matter of what could have been with Gable Steveson. Are we going to see more of him in pro wrestling in general? And will we ever see him again in WWE? What are some other big names from the world of pro sports that you would want to see in WWE? Let us know in the comments below.